Welcome back to our weekly quest to unconfuse your confusion, increase your anxiety, and amplify your sense of existential dread. You're welcome.
This week's guests are Henry Kissinger and Maynard James Keenan.
This week's episode is brought to you by memes and SSRIs.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Because that shit ain't gonna inhibit itself.
Now here's your hosts, James and Matthew.
We're live. I'm James.
And I'm Matt. This is
Here
Leftist Lens.
Yep, here we are again, going over the events of the prior week and trying to minimize the hyperbole and present you with as much factual information as we can.
It is the morning of Sunday, October 20th, as we're recording this. You're probably listening to it at some future date, but the election is just about 2 weeks away now.
It's getting very, very real, and it's getting... Dog, what are you doing? She's in my face. Okay. It's almost here, and I don't feel good about any of it.
Yeah, I got one thing to say about it. I took a Uber the other day, and my Uber driver was a young woman, not young, late 20s, I would say. And I asked her about the election and if she was registered to vote. That's all I said. Are you registered to vote? And she said, yeah, but what's the election about? And I'm like, there's a presidential election in like 3 weeks. And she said, oh, who's running?
Oh, my God. What?
I don't know how, especially if you're driving around in your car all day. What do you think all those signs are? What do you think those billboards are?
Do you think she was being serious, or do you think she was trying to avoid a caustic political exchange?
I don't know, because I said that this was when after the Kamala Harris rally, and I said I had just come from the Kamala Harris rally, and she said, "Oh, is she running for vice president again?" I think she didn't know. I really do, and
Really?
I don't know how that's possible. Don't know how that's possible.
But I'm giving this unknown person the benefit of the doubt, because I think that would be a really neutral way of trying to remain neutral in a confined space where you're held captive. Because I cringe at the idea, as an Uber driver myself, the idea of somebody bringing up politics in my vehicle.
All right, I'll tell you another story. When I was driving for Uber, I picked up a ride in Erie, Pennsylvania that was to Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an old lady, and she was going to a medical appointment at the Cleveland Clinic. And right after we get on the highway, where it's like too late to turn around, she says, this was in like 2019,
Mm-hmm.
running up to the election, or 2020. It was running up to the 2020 election. And she asked me what I thought about the election, and I didn't want to say. She's a boomer. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, yeah.
And I'm about to be in the car with her for 2 hours after whatever this conversation is. So I just said, oh, yeah, I know it's coming. And I didn't say anything else. And the next thing out of her mouth was, I just hate these fucking fascists. And she was talking about Trump. So then we had a nice conversation for 2 hours about how much we hated Trump. So that was good.
That was a bullet dodged for sure.
But yes, I can imagine that is an uncomfortable thing. So maybe she was doing that. All I did ask is if she was registered to vote. I asked my waiter when I went out to dinner last night if he was registered to vote. That's all I said. And he said he was. That's it. That's all I wanted to know.
The guy that showed up to relieve me at midnight last night he's a black guy. His name's Rob. And I told Rob I'm going to send him a link to this week's podcast, because we are of like mind when it comes to politics. And Rob is very, very unnerved about the potential in this election and where it might be going. And from his own perspective, he's got a son who, I think he told me his son is 6'8" and 320 pounds. I may have gotten the height wrong, but the 320 is real. A young black man. And he says he fears for what the social and political climate is for the sake of his son, because just the presence of, again, 6'8", maybe a little shorter than that, but 320 pounds, black young man can be perceived as a threat, especially in the minds of the people who we are concerned about in this political climate. So Rob is going to get a copy or a link to this episode, and I think Rob will appreciate the things we're going to talk about.
All right. So you have something you want to say to third-party voters or those who are telling us to vote third party?
Yeah.
Here.
So the first thing I want to acknowledge is that I see you and I hear you. I understand your perspective. I am you in many senses of the word. And this election is going to be decided by the undecideds and the declared third-party voters. There is no question about that it should not be that way. It should not be so close that we are acknowledging that it's going to be decided by the undecideds at this point, but it is. And what I want to convey to you is what's really at stake here. And I'm going to use the word Palestinians, and I want that word is going to represent every group that is marginalized, is subjugated, is enslaved, is damaged by the current political environment. So when I say Palestinians, I mean all the groups. I think the most important realization I've had in the last few days is that the Republican Party in every available race needs to be denied power. There is nothing to be gained by any Republican holding their seat or winning a seat in any election from the president on down to the school board. The Republican Party needs to be denied power. And the reason for that is, and I'm speaking to the undeclareds, the declared third-party voters, or the undecideds, is that if you are not going to participate in this election with the agenda of denying the Republican Party power, and the Republican Party holds or gains power in these elections, you will not have a voice going forward. The Republican Party and the flag bearer for the Republican Party has made it perfectly clear what they are going to do with dissenters. You will not have a voice to speak for Palestine, for the Palestinian people. The frustration that you feel in your inability to affect change for the Palestinians, again, that means everybody, will be utterly decided if the Republicans are not denied power in these elections. I know personally how difficult it is to think that you are voting for such and such candidate, because we have to play within the boundaries of the rules that are given to us. And from the presidential election perspective, just the top of that ticket, we only have two choices. Your vote for a third-party candidate, and I don't want this to sound like the blue MAGA mantra, but your vote for the third-party candidate is not going to advance your cause. It is going to advance the cause of the Republican Party, who has made it perfectly clear that they are going to silence your voice and punish your dissent by any means necessary. And I have multiple groups of people that are important to me in this election. This election is not about my self-interest. My self-interest don't exist in the climate of this election. The people that I care about, the groups of people that I'm concerned about, the Palestinians, again, meaning everyone, will not have my voice and the power that my voice carries if the Republicans maintain power in this election. So this isn't a vote for Harris. This is a vote to ensure that the Republican Party is denied power in this election. And then moving forward from here, because you will still have your voice and you will still have the influence that your voice carries. And that influence is real. We got rid of Joe Biden. Let's be clear about that. We achieved that. We didn't get who we wanted. There's a child. Hi, child. We didn't get who we wanted. We still have the Democratic Party, which is betrothed to awful, awful things, but you will still have a voice and you can still affect change. You will not have that if the Republican Party maintains power after this election. So please consider that. Please consider the power that your vote, the undecided or the declared third party voter, has in this election. You are the deciding factor in this. And once we neuter the Republican Party, we can then use our voices to continue to influence the movement of the Democrat Party and or the power of the third parties that we wish were viable candidates on these tickets. Time is running out. We don't have much more time to try to process this and discuss this, but y'all are the deciding factor. We are the deciding factor.
And I got to say, if you really, really want to affect change, you can't just vote in 2024. You got to vote in 2025. Those will only be local elections. There'll be no federal elections on your ticket, but local stuff will be on those ballots. You need to vote in those. You need to vote in midterms. And we know you don't. The numbers tell us many people only show up once every 4 years.
Yeah, the existence of viable third-party candidates higher up the ticket depends on grassroots local elections and supporting the candidates who embrace your values and embrace your ideology. Get those people in office, from the comptroller to the school board, to the city council, to the mayor. Every step up the way is where this energy needs to be. It isn't going to achieve your goals by not voting or voting for some third party that isn't going to become a leader in the results of this election. And again, I understand you. I have been all in for Claudia and Katrina from the time they announced their candidacy, but I know that I can still support the intent and the future of the potential for third-party candidates, even though I won't be voting for them in the general election. Because if this doesn't go the right way, there's only two ways this is going to go. Either the Republicans are going to grab more power, maintain power, or the Democrats are going to be the up and coming force in this. There are no other choices in this. And if you don't support the choice that maintains your ability to continue to speak on these things, then we are finished. And I've slept on this, and I wanted to make sure that there wasn't too much hyperbole in that statement, but I still think it's true. I think that what is ahead for us, if the Republicans maintain power or increase their power hold, doesn't serve the interests of anyone. And that's my statement.
All right. So as we are now just 2 weeks away from the election, what do the polls say? Well, all of a sudden, the polls show either Trump leading or it being tied in every swing state. Real Clear Politics just says, no, Trump's going to win all 7 swing states and have 329 electoral votes.
Fuck.
Is this true? I don't know. My eyes tell me it's not. First day of early voting in Georgia, record turnout. First day of early voting in North Carolina, record turnout. Who shows up and votes early? Young people do. Mostly Democrats do. when more people vote, Democrats tend to do better.
Mhm.
It looks like we're going to have high turnout. I don't see how Trump's going to win. All right. Also, I live in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I've said before on this show, and all the people that spoke at the Kamala Harris rally last week said the same thing. How Erie County votes tends to be how Pennsylvania votes, and that's been true since 2008.
Mhm.
Including in 2016, Erie County voted for Trump. Well, Trump had a rally here 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and he was at a smaller venue. He was at the Erie County Convention Center. Smaller venue, had about 2,000 people show up. Kamala Harris was at Erie Insurance Arena, which is a hockey arena. That's where Trump was in 2020 and in 2016.
Mhm.
But they gave him a smaller venue this year. She showed up there, and I went. And they said that doors opened at 3. They said be in line by 5 or you might not get in. I went down there at 3:30, and the line was 6 city blocks long. And it got longer. There were at least, so it was winding back and forth along 10th Street here in Erie. And it went back and forth an additional 4 times behind me after I showed up. Took me 3 hours to get inside, but I got in. They put a full 6,000 people in there, and then they said there were 1,000 people outside that couldn't get in. So it seems to me that Erie County is not going to vote for Trump. That just seems to me what the truth is.
Mhm.
So my experience at the rally, I've never been to a political rally like that before. I've been to town halls before, but not a rally like that. It was an interesting experience. First of all, in contrast to Republicans, where they're always just talking about how terrible everything is and how we have to get rid of all the immigrants and how everybody's ruining your life, the mood was much more upbeat, much happier, more hope-filled. This is before anybody spoke. Just people were excited to be there. There was a DJ. They were playing music really loud. People were dancing. People were singing. This is before anybody spoke, because you were in there for a couple hours before anybody spoke. Jim Wertz, who's running for state senate. We've talked about him before because I met him at a baseball game several months ago. He's running for state senate. He also went viral on TikTok for talking to a anti-immigrant neighbor of his over the summer. He spoke. He just talked about how important it is to vote and how I'll just say it ahead of time. Every single person who spoke, including Kamala Harris, talked about how Erie County is the most important county in Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's true, but they sure spend a lot of money here.
Mhm.
Eugene DePasquale spoke next. He's running for attorney general. He had said this before, but the main thing he said in his speech was that even if Trump wins and enacts a nationwide abortion ban, he will not prosecute anyone, any doctors or any women in Pennsylvania under that ban if he's elected. I found that interesting, though, because he's separated himself from Harris's need to win to prevent that by that statement, you know. He's saying you can vote for me and not for Kamala Harris, and I'll still prevent that from happening. I found that interesting. Next, there was a young woman that came out. She was a Democratic organizer. I don't know what that even means. She spoke. She said the same thing about how important this election was. And then Senator Fetterman came out. Hadn't seen him in a while.
Yes.
He came out in shorts and a hoodie. He didn't speak very long, and he didn't say anything policy related. Nothing at all. Also, he spoke well. He didn't slur. He didn't stumble. He spoke very well. It seems like he's recovered from his stroke pretty well. I don't know if his policy decisions have recovered from his stroke, but his speaking did at least. But I did find that interesting also that he knows that a lot of Democrats don't like some of the things he's been saying lately, so he didn't say any of that stuff. But he didn't introduce Kamala Harris. Then a local election official, she was retired, but she was introduced as a retired local election official. So I'm guessing she was on the board of elections or something. She introduced Kamala Harris. She was the same thing. talked about how important Erie County is, talked about how abortion is on the ballot. And then Kamala Harris came out, and it was good. She had a hard time getting people to stop cheering for her so she could start speaking. So people were really excited to see her. She mentioned all the main things that, you know, she's been mentioning in you know, that are the top topics for this election.
Mm-hmm.
She mentioned securing the border, although importantly, that's all she mentioned about it. She said we need to secure the border, and that's it. She said nothing more about that. She did talk at length about the tariffs, although she calls them a 20% sales tax on consumers. I don't like that messaging. I think people can learn what tariffs are. The problem with that is Trump can say, I'm not instituting any sales tax, which is true. And then, you know, now you have conspiracy theories. You know, she's lying about a sales tax. Yes, tariffs equate to a sales tax. Explain that. Say they're tariffs and explain how that's like a sales tax. Don't just call it a sales tax. But that's what they've been doing. I don't agree with that, but she talked about that. Then she talked about abortion for a while. And then she introduced some new concepts to her repertoire. Okay. So she had not been doing very strongly calling out Trump for being deranged and mentally weak and all that. But she did today. She even played a video, or not today, it was on Monday, but she played a video of Trump saying deranged things. And then, you know, it was, I don't know, maybe a 2-minute video, and then talked about how deranged he is. So that was new. I think that's good messaging. I do like that. I think she has to talk like that.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. It was fun. It was. I don't want to say that it was worth it, because it really wasn't. Waiting in line for the cold for 3 hours for about 30 minutes of speeches was kind of crazy. But I'm glad I went. I think I'll watch future ones on TV.
Yeah, that was I was getting your play-by-play as you were standing in line and whatnot, and I'm like, my God, man, I don't think I could do that. But kudos to you for sticking with it and getting in there, because I think having real eyes on it and not getting some, you know, regurgitated third or fourth party assessment of what goes on in there is rare. I don't get to talk to too many people that make that sacrifice and show up for these things. I get to see other people regurgitating the idea of it. But now, we haven't heard this mantra so much this time around, aside from people talking about the inequities of the Electoral College versus the popular vote. But do you remember people talking about your vote doesn't really matter? This election isn't decided by your vote. Your vote is not really what's deciding this. You remember people talking like that, right?
Yes.
How can that have any bearing in reality when political candidates spend exorbitant amounts of money trying to influence your vote, and then other political candidates spend the same amount of money trying to suppress your vote? So the idea, and I think this was a really popular meme during the Tea Party uprising. You might be too young to remember the Tea Party. And
me?
You know, yeah.
No.
You're a fucking child.
The Tea Party was a response to Occupy Wall Street. I remember both of those things.
Yeah. And it is the grandfather of MAGA, but yes, that was a very popular talking point then. And I'm really beginning to think that talking point was a psyop. And I hate the word psyop because it makes you sound like a crazy fuck. I'm a crazy fuck. A psyop by the GOP, because if anything, suppressing your vote is what benefits the GOP, and they would prefer that you don't vote.
Yeah.
So
I just want to say one other thing from the rally. I sat next to two young women, Lori and Olivia. They were very excited to be there. They were fun to talk to. It was nice meeting you two. You said you were going to listen to the podcast. If you are, just say hello.
Yay. New viewers, new listeners. We love that. All
right. So what did Trump do this week? I don't remember what day it was, but you've probably all seen the video of him dancing.
Is that what that was?
He was at a town hall event And if you don't know, a town hall event is where voters get to go and ask questions.
Mm.
And he took a few questions and then decided he didn't want to take questions anymore. So he just played music and swayed to the music on stage for 40 fucking minutes.
It's crazy.
That is insane.
And I saw, and I'm assuming this was at the same rally. I saw people yelling at him because the AC wasn't running in the rally, and they were suffering.
Yes. Now, a normal candidate, even if you're angry at the voters and you don't want to answer their questions, when you decide you're not taking any more questions, you just leave. You don't stand on the stage for 40 minutes and play music.
Yeah, but he in his narcissistic pathology, he thinks that his visage, his presence carries value. And so just standing there doing his fucking whatever the fuck that is.
Now, I'm going to be honest. I don't dance much better, but I don't dance on stage in front of cameras.
I made a statement on social media recently that he's literally decomposing in front of our eyes. And the people on the right who criticize Joe Biden and his advanced age are utterly unwilling to acknowledge that Trump is decomposing in front of us when everybody else in the world sees it. It's fucking crazy.
Can you imagine what he looks like without makeup on? He wears so much makeup.
I want to know what he looks like when he's sleeping. I want to know what position he sleeps in. I want to know what he's wearing when he's sleeping, because that the whole idea disgusts me, and I need to feel more disgusted with things, and that does it for me.
All right, the other thing, he went on Fox and Friends, and I don't know if he's sitting on a pee pad, but it kind of looks like he is.
What if it wasn't that? What the fuck would it be?
I don't know. Maybe he has hemorrhoids and it was some softer thing. I have no idea.
Oh my God.
I have no idea. Although since then, Adam Kinzinger has come out and said that Trump smells like ketchup and poop.
Ew.
So weird.
Great. Never using ketchup again. Thanks for that condiment elimination.
You're an adult. You shouldn't be using ketchup anyway.
What the fuck? Okay. Jesus, Dad.
But anyway, he said something new there. So he said he wanted to abolish the Department of Education. He said that many times before. That's not a surprise. But when Brian Kilmeade, I think it was Brian Kilmeade, asked him, well, what do you do in these liberal cities like San Diego and Los Angeles when they want to teach about slavery? And he said, if they do that, we'll just take their money. We won't fund them. That is an insane thing to say. I want to say there was also a black reporter sitting on the couch, 2 people down from him, and he said nothing. That is insane.
What did you think of Brett Baer's interview with Harris?
I think Brett Baer is not a journalist. None of his questions were fair.
Yeah.
He was trying to get gotchas. Like he asked her, how many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration put onto the streets? What the fuck kind of question is that? First of all, Kamala Harris doesn't have an administration.
Right.
And then he wouldn't let her answer. She's trying to answer honestly, acknowledging that the border is an issue to her. I don't think it is. The issue is it's too closed. It's too hard to immigrate. We need more immigrants. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's Brett Baer is a piece of shit.
I was reactively frustrated with the fact that the cult on the right watched that interview, and the assessment that they came away with in no way represented reality of what that event actually looked like. They said Harris had a temper tantrum and she proved that she's unfit to lead. What the fuck were you watching? And then I expressed that frustration. I went through it, and then I realized that the people who were making that assessment don't fucking matter. They need to be out of our dialogue, other than to use them as examples for, again, the undecideds and the declared third party voters, to show that what we're getting into if we permit the Republican Party and the flag bearer for the Republican Party to maintain power or grab power is an awful fucking prospect, and that's what we need to be focused on coming back again.
And you know what I just thought of? If you're sitting here thinking that all your problems are caused by immigrants because that's what Democrats have told you, I want you to think about your personal experience. What has actually an immigrant done to you? Actually. Not what were you told they did.
Yep.
Think about how they've actually affected you in any way.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll realize they didn't do anything to you.
Yeah, and then think a little further than that and think about the things that you enjoy in your daily life as your conveniences and your necessities that would be greatly scaled back were it not for the undocumented workers that are providing, in many cases, the food that's on your fucking table.
Yeah, you know, I'm a big guy. I like food, and I'll tell you, Erie has been a sanctuary city since I don't know when. Whenever Sudan was evacuating people and refugees were coming here, we got a lot of Sudanese refugees here, and not just Sudanese refugees though. We got refugees from all over. And my biggest complaint about this town was there wasn't ethnic food. The restaurants were terrible. And over the past dozen years or so, a lot of new restaurants, a lot from all over the world. It's great. I love it.
Yes, absolutely. We had the same thing up in Vermont because I lived in Vermont from 2000 to 2011. And the number of West African refugees that took root in northern Vermont brought in the shops that were specific to their culture and restaurants and everything else that nobody complained about that in northern Vermont. Vermont is a weird state to begin with because when I moved there in 2000, there was this whole movement called Take Back Vermont, and they were opposed to the civil unions, which eventually became law in Vermont. And so they were it was basically 50-50 in that state. But none of those people were complaining about the new experiences that came from the immigrant population and the culinary aspect of it, which to me is a huge win. Because I'll say,
I don't know about where you guys live, but when I use DoorDash, my driver 99% of the time is an immigrant.
I don't use DoorDash or things like that very often just because I'm broke.
I don't either, but I do sometimes.
Yeah.
And I like it. And it's convenient. It costs way too much, but it's convenient.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, so that's what happened. Since then, Trump has been canceling rallies and interviews, citing exhaustion.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about.
It's about the fact that he's 900 years old and gelatinous and falling apart. There's nothing else to explore about that.
Well, I mean, he is normal. One thing about him is he is normally high energy when he's in his rallies.
Yeah, Adderall will do that to you.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So that's interesting. All right. Anything else to say about the election? It's getting close. Please register to vote. I don't know. Whatever. Look at your state. If you're not registered, see what the deadline is to register in Pennsylvania. It's coming up at the end of this week. I think the 26th or something is the deadline to register if you want to vote in this election. Actually, it might even be earlier than that. Look in your state. See when the deadline is. Some states you can register at the polls. Most states you cannot. So.
Early voting has already started in your state, correct?
Yeah, so I think last week you asked me about that, and I didn't even know there was early voting, but there is. So yes, it has started, and it ends. That's the other thing. Early voting ends maybe at the end of this week. Like you can early vote at the election office up until the end of this week, and then there's a few days where you can't vote, and then you have to vote at the polls.
So early voting in Florida, October 24th, I think is when that starts. So yeah, that goes all the way up to Election Day. So here in Florida, very soon.
I'm fairly sure in every state you can vote mail-in now too. So if you don't have time to go to the polls, request a mail-in ballot.
Yeah, and in fact, in Florida, the deadline to request has to be postmarked. That's for registration. I'll look that up and I'll put that in the show notes.
Yep. It's important to vote. It's important to vote in every election, local elections too.
Yes.
It is one of your 2 civic duties: voting and serving on juries. Those are the 2 things you're duty to do in exchange for citizenship.
Yep. I think we're going to be hammering this in every episode now leading up to the election, and you're going to get tired of hearing it, but you're going to hear it repeatedly because it's important.
All right.
Moving to the world stage.
Oh, should we take an ad break?
Yeah, let's do an ad break.
If you're looking for a specific design or have just a general idea that you want brought to life, Lumagraphics might be the partner you need. Choose from our existing library of designs and products, or give us information on what you're looking for and give us a chance to make it happen. The attention you'll get is going to impress you almost as much as the finished product. Look us up on TikTok and Etsy today.
And we're back.
All right. What's happening in Palestine? A lot of stuff has happened this week. Italy has enacted an arms embargo on Israel, so no Italian weapons will be going into Israel from now on.
That's official, huh?
That's official. Spain and France are continuing to call for one. I don't know that they've actually enacted one. Biden, for the first time ever, threatened an arms embargo on Israel, although interestingly, he gave them 30 days to correct their ways, which goes past the election. That's, I don't know why, but...
Well, I find it interesting that in that statement by the U.S. administration about what would trigger an arms embargo, that they have very specific conditions. I mean, from the number of trucks per day going in, and I hope that they will abide by what they set up as the parameters of this condition, so that if Israel isn't meeting, there's no coming back and renegotiating what may or may not trigger an arms embargo. We have nothing to lose by enacting an arms embargo. In fact, I've seen many leftists, again, coming back to the declared third party or undecided voters, saying, people are saying that there's nothing Kamala Harris or the current administration could do that would compel them to vote on the Democrat ticket. But these leftist influencers and voters are saying very clearly that would be the thing that would trigger them to vote for Democrats in this election, is an arms embargo against Israel. Pay attention to that. And this is critical.
Yeah. So that's why it's interesting that that arms embargo won't come until after the election. It's a missed opportunity. Give them 7 days. Say in the next 7 days, you need to do this, this, and this. All it was about allowing food and water into Gaza.
Yeah.
How can you be against that?
Yeah.
There are children there. Ugh, whatever.
I know.
So Israel has allowed some food trucks in for the first time in weeks after that threat, but not the number that was demanded by Biden. That's interesting.
Yeah. That should be enough to trigger. That's the end of the arms sales to Israel.
It should. Also, the biggest news over there is Sinwar. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Leader of Hamas. He was killed.
Yeah.
That brought mass protests out in Israel because they're saying, okay, you killed the guy that was responsible for the October 7th attack. Can we end the war now and get our hostages home? That's what they're saying. It doesn't look like it.
Of course not.
Doesn't look like you can get your hostages. Sorry.
Because Israel does not.
Maniac.
Yeah, Israel does not care one whit about the Israelis and others that are being held hostage in Gaza. It never has.
The Israeli people do. The Israeli government doesn't.
Right. Fucking unreal.
Yeah.
You know, there has been since whenever it was now that Russia invaded Ukraine, and there have been people talking about, oh, this is World War III, blah 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 blah, and it's a it's a baseless idea. But God damn it, if it doesn't begin to look more like that's what the dynamic is, since North Korea is now flooding Ukraine with their troops.
Yeah, so North Korea is doing a few weird things. They also blew up all the roads connecting the two Koreas.
Which I think they've done before, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I can say what I was going to say. But yeah, they blew up the roads connecting the two Koreas.
Yep.
They've also moved troops closer to the border to staging areas as if they're worried about a South Korean invasion. I assure you that's not going to happen. It kind of feels like Kim Jong-un is just I don't know, he's panicking, he's scared of something, boogeyman, I don't know.
Well, I think the situation, real or perceived, that North Korea has stated is that they found wreckage from a South Korean drone in North Korea, and that was a big part of his decision to stage these troops closer to the northern border of South Korea. And here's my thing about this. First of all, jump back to Ukraine, where North Korea is shipping troops. They're having desertions once those North Korean, because this is the first time many of these men have been out of North Korea, and they're having desertions left and right. And I think it's sad and hilarious at the same time. Of course they're going to have desertions. This is a great opportunity for these people.
Yeah, so if you're one of those communists that thinks North Korea is a communist haven, that should show you that it's not.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, I can having been to the border, right? I've been to the border between the two Koreas, Panmunjom, the city where they negotiated the UN peace treaty, and where they still hold the negotiations trying to end the war that has not officially ended still. I've been there, and there are North Korean troops there. There are South Korean troops there. Now, I will say, South Korea and the American troops that are in that city, you have to be 6 feet tall to serve there. It's to project strength, right? If you assume that the North Koreans do the same thing and put their biggest, tallest, scariest soldiers there, they ain't 6 feet tall. None of them are. They don't have the food to grow kids that big.
Yeah. They've been in a state of starvation for a generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I hope that well, here's what I was thinking last night, and I messaged you about this, with North Korea pledging and providing these troops. If North Korea decides to pull the trigger on something stupid against South Korea or other interests in that region, I think perhaps his willingness to sacrifice his own people in Ukraine in the interest of Russia means that if North Korea does something stupid, he's going to call on Russia to provide troops and or supplies.
He'll call on China too. Will China do it? I don't know. Probably.
I think China's going to be, I think in any escalation in that region, China is going to be the mitigating factor. I think China has historically talked his petulant little ass down many times, and were it not for China's influence in that region, things could have gotten very messy at a number of instances. So hate China all you want, but they are the power in that region, and they have not been at war.
No, China's interests do not lie in war with the West.
Right. In war at all. I mean, that's
Western
the thing.
Money is what makes the Chinese economy.
Yeah. And compare that to the United States influence around the world and the number of wars and hostile actions that the United States initiates, engages in, and supports, and how our economy is so dependent on U.S. hostility around the world. our economy is dependent on that. China's economy is not dependent on those sorts of dynamics. That's an important point.
Yeah.
We're not the good guys.
No, we are not.
Okay, and I'm not saying China is the good guys either, but they've figured out how to have a robust economy that isn't dependent upon them committing aggressions against other countries around the world. And I'm not saying China isn't aggressive toward other countries. Look at fucking Taiwan. They posture against Taiwan perpetually, but I don't think it's clear that their economy is not based on their military expansion and their military prowess.
That's true.
Kudos to them for that.
All right. Anything else of import, or do we lighten it up a little?
I think we should lighten it up a little.
All right. So I'm going to watch my daughter play a soccer game today. I used to play soccer through high school, so I'm excited to see that. She's 9, so it won't be the kind of soccer where the kids just chase the ball all around. You know, they're coachable and they'll pass to each other and stuff. So it'll be good to watch.
Your daughter's soccer game is the reason I got up at 6 o'clock this morning, so that I would not be party to you missing that game, which I couldn't live with.
I appreciate you, James.
I got talked into when my eldest son was in kindergarten. And my wife at the time volunteered us to coach the kindergarten soccer team. That's not what your experience. That's not what your daughter's experience is, or your experience. It was like herding fucking cats.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I did soccer with both my kids when they were 4. Like,
oh my God.
The parent participated too, and you would do
stuff.
I did that.
It was fun. It was fun, but it was definitely not real soccer. And
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched any movies, I don't think.
Really?
I watched the Substance.
Oh, okay. Because I'd seen comments about that on social media. How was that?
That is a weird movie. It is a very weird movie. There's a lot of commentary on, I think, Hollywood culture, the value of youth in Hollywood, but it is bizarre. Bizarre.
It's on my list of things to watch. What I watched this week that had my attention thoroughly is a movie called The Night Comes for Us.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's an Indonesian movie, and it is completely over the top in terms of action, but not so much that it is, because it's what you would expect from an Eastern film company and an Eastern actors. It is really good. I highly recommend it, and I'm following that up with, what's the other one? There's another one along the same lines. That is The Shadow Strays. The Shadow Strays is the next one that I have queued up. But I have also included, and I've been back and forth on the Picard TV series. I thought season 1 was weak. I think I skipped season 2, but I went back and watched it last night, and I'm glad I did, because I'm re-engaged in that. Yeah,
Picard I watched all of it. Picard is very much fan service to people who watch The Next Generation and Voyager. I don't know if it's going to attract new fans. I think it's mainly about bringing back characters that you loved from other series, don't you?
Well, I don't know, because, well, sure, I think that there is that agenda in anything like that, but I've never been like a Trekkie. I have friends that are hardcore Trekkies. So if I'm going to dip my toes into some Star Trek offshoot series, I always check with Eli. Eli is my friend who he is a crazy fucking Trekkie. So with that in mind, I haven't gotten a response from him yet. I downloaded all of the seasons and episodes for Voyager, Star Trek Voyager. I know nothing about it.
Ooh, Voyager is my favorite.
Okay, good.
That's my favorite.
That's what I needed to hear, because I just use 85 gigabytes of my Plex storage for all those seasons and episodes, so it better be worth it. So when I finish Picard, that's what I'm moving on to, just for,
if you get a Walmart Plus subscription, you get Paramount Plus with it, and it's all on there. You don't have to use any gigabytes of your storage.
I don't care. I need to steal things from the internet, and I'm a hoarder in that regard. So,
in baseball, my Guardians got eliminated last night, so the Yankees are in the World Series for the first time since 2009 or 2008, something, which is crazy to me because I feel like I've watched the Yankees win the World Series 20 times in my life.
Yeah, right.
But it's been a while. The Mets and Dodgers are at 3-2. The Dodgers can advance to the World Series tonight. The Mets need to win 2 games.
Oh, so that's tonight. All right.
Game 6 is tonight. Dodgers are up 3-2.
Oh man, I want that.
I think baseball wants the Dodgers.
Yes,
probably
absolutely.
Dodgers. They don't want, because that's 2 markets. If you just have New York.
Yeah.
They've done that before, first of all. I don't know. I don't think that would be terrible, honestly, for ratings. I'd rather see the Dodgers, though, because I will root for the Dodgers. I will not root for the Mets. I will not root for the Yankees. So I won't watch the World Series if it's Yankees-Mets because I won't care.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if you're a college football fan, but for weeks, everyone was saying Texas was a clear number 1. It seems like because everybody else that had been ranked in the top 5 has lost this year. Well, Texas lost to Georgia yesterday, so maybe they're not a clear number 1. It's a good thing there's going to be 12 teams in the playoffs. I'm looking forward to the college football playoff. That'll be fun.
Go sports ball.
There's also a decent chance that either Army or Navy could get into the playoffs. That would be exciting to me.
That would be cool.
Yeah. When Army and Navy play each other, when I was in the Army in Korea, on the weekend that the Army and Navy game was, we would play flag football against Marines. And
really?
I just always thought that was fun. Yeah. But you'd have the commanders, the ones who went to West Point and the Naval Academy, having their troops play against each other in flag football while they probably bet against each other and stuff. That's what it was like.
Oh, hey, I was just looking at the Google News feed to see if we missed anything, and we did, in fact. And I've been hearing more and more about this, but let me read the headline. Elon Musk kicks off daily $1 million giveaway for signers of pro-Trump petition. How the fuck is that legal? He's spending money to get people to register as Republicans, to get people to go to these rallies, to get people to sign these petitions. He's buying them.
And he's a foreigner.
Yeah, now here's what really frustrates me about this. I know that the federal government is never going to hold him accountable for any of these things he does, because the for one, Department of Defense is so betrothed to Elon Musk. Not just NASA, but Department of Defense as a whole they rely on him so heavily. I can see that what might happen is if he pushes the envelope too far with his bullshit, is they will put pressure on him to detach himself from SpaceX, because SpaceX is critical infrastructure to the United States government at this point. But they're very hands off with his bullshit right now because of that dependency that they have, and I hate it. I hate it.
One other thing that I should have put at the beginning, but nobody pointed this out to us, but I made an error last week.
Uh-oh.
Where I said
retraction incoming.
I said Dave McCormick, who is running for Senate in Pennsylvania, was from New Hampshire. He's not. He is, in fact, from Connecticut. Still not from Pennsylvania, though. Don't know why he's running for Senate in Pennsylvania. I mean, okay, he grew up in Pennsylvania, but he lives in Connecticut. How does that work? I don't know.
Is that I saw some back and forth, whether it was in a debate or something or a press conference, about somebody accusing the other guy of lying about where they live. I think it was that.
Yeah, it could be
situation. Jumping
the
back
last guy the Republicans put up for Senate lived in New Jersey. That was Mehmet Oz. You lived in
Yeah.
New Jersey.
Yep.
But I just like to say, Democrats do this too. I mean, although Hillary Clinton, at least when she ran for Senate in New York, she did literally move there. But
I was going to
she
use
had never lived there before.
Yeah, I was going to use her as an example, but I backed off of that.
I feel like you should be tied to your state. Like look, Mitt Romney was damn governor of Massachusetts, and now he's a senator in Utah. I feel like you should be tied to a state. I don't know.
Absolutely, you should. It's common sense. I jumped back to the Google News feed, and this is the headline that caught my eye, and so I think we should close with this because it generally sums up the entire culture of today. But here's the headline. I get to use the present now feature.
Nice.
Oh, fuck off with that. Hey, god damn it.
Oh,
what are these fucking pop-up ads? Jesus Christ. Anyway, there we are.
capitalism.
Moron shoots Cybertruck alarm to discover it's not actually.
Yeah, I saw that.
Jesus fucking Christ. Have you seen
Right
Cybertrucks?
about it.
Have you seen Cybertrucks in your area?
One, yes, I saw one in the wild on the streets.
Yeah,
I
I've
see
seen-
lots of Teslas. There are lots of Teslas in Erie.
There's lots of Teslas here too, and I've seen 2 or 3. I know they're different Cybertrucks because I'm seeing them in different areas at the same time.
Yeah. But I saw one. There are a lot of Teslas, but I've only seen one Cybertruck.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Everything's ridiculous. All right, people, we will be back next week to continue to remind you to vote, to continue to remind you how you should vote. Yes, we're going to tell you how you should vote. There's no mincing words about this. So please go out there and think this through and encourage other people who are undecided or declared third party. Don't bother with the Trumplicans. Don't bother with the Republicans. We're not trying to influence them. They are gone. They are a lost cause. The undecideds and the third party voters are going to decide this election, and you need to know how you're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't play by the rules this time.
True. All right. Thanks for listening or watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe. If you're
Share.
listening on a podcast app, leave us a review. Only if you like us. If you don't like us, just don't listen next week. Or go to YouTube and leave us comments. We'd love to argue with you.
Yes, please. All right, people, stay safe. We'll see you next week.
Henry Kissinger is dead, thankfully, and Maynard won't return our phone calls. Maybe next time.